Stuart Cameron, 102.6
I'm tonight in Oxford at the Apollo Theatre. Dennis Locorriere is in town, and if you're not familiar with the name, you'll certainly be familiar with the voice, because he was the lead singer with Dr. Hook. Dennis, welcome to Oxford.
It's nice to be here. I'm always here on a Sunday, though, Stuart. I don't know what it is. Everything's closed except me. I come to Oxford and I say, what's going on? And they say, well, unfortunately, you are. So I don't get to see it. I get to walk around, but I don't ever get to go any place that's open.
Now, Dr. Hook has been split up since 1985, so what have you been doing since then?
Well, you know, I was on the road so long with Dr. Hook. I mean, you know, I've told you before, like 16 years for 300 days a year. So when it stopped, I mean, I needed a year or so just to get over it, just to sit in one place and get my mail in the proper order and just, you know, try to have a life. And it took me a few years of just doing really nothing, you know, writing songs and not going on the road and stuff, just to calm down. But since I've done a little bit of acting and a lot of songwriting, and all of it's kind of made me want to get back into this. So here I am again.
And you're back with just you and a guitar. Why take that form?
Well, first of all, I did a play last year that Shel Silverstein wrote, and it was a one-man play, and I got used to being on stage alone. And I was an only child, so I was used to, whenever I played a game, I knew how it was going to end. So it's the same thing. To tell you the truth, I thought being alone on stage with a guitar was going to be kind of limiting. But actually, it frees me up to do just about anything I want, because if somebody in the audience shouts out a song, I don't have to check with the rest of the band and orchestra. I can just go right into it. So it's been a good experience. Also, I thought as simple as possible this time, since I always was on the road with 7 guys and a big road crew. I just thought to make it as simple. I couldn't have made it any easier without not showing up at all.
So what about the audience? What are they going to expect tonight?
Well, I don't want them to expect anything. I want to surprise them a lot, you know. The one thing they can expect is, you know, I'm going to sing a lot of the old songs. I've reckoned with that now. I kind of shied away from the old songs in the last few years whenever I did any kind of gigs, because I got the feeling that was, you know, pushing that too much. That could be all I was. So I didn't concentrate on those too much. But I've reckoned with them, and there's a little part in the show where I even ask people what they want to play, and I like when they call out songs that, you know, tax my memory. I stand there and say, ooh, do I remember this? You know, so that's good. So it'll be a little bit of the old stuff, and certainly a lot of the new stuff, because that's my future, you know, because without that, I'm just an oldies act, and I certainly didn't want to come back and spend the rest of my life reminding you who I used to be. It just didn't seem worth it.
So why did Dr. Hook come to an end in the first place?
Well, you know, I mean, after 16 years, I mean, about 2 years before we actually broke up, I was really starting to question whether I wanted to go on with it. But, you know, there were a lot of people involved. There was a 7-piece band, and there was a 5 or 6 man road crew, and everybody's families. And I always got the feeling, you know, if I just walked away from this, I would be ending everybody's life as they knew it, you know. And I don't know that I didn't know that I could handle the responsibility for that. But one day I just kind of gingerly brought the prospect up to everybody, and they went, oh, yeah, why wouldn't you like to go home, you know? So I thought, oh, well, see, I was doing these guys a disservice, you know, because everybody really did put in their time, and we wanted to know what life after Dr. Hook would be like. So we actually did our last official major tour, you know, of our yearly world tours in 1984, and then in 1985 we decided to come back to the UK and say goodbye, do a farewell tour, because we thought it would be proper rather than just hanging up the phone on somebody, you know. And that was it. And I talked to some of the guys in the band now, and nobody ever pines, and, you know, I mean, we all have great stories, and, you know, I did something that a lot of people don't get to do. I got to travel all around the world and have great experiences with, at least at that point, all of my best friends, you know, so that was good. So when you get to that, it's nice to just stop it somewhere and have those memories. I mean, something has to be your past, you know, so.
Do you miss the big time?
No, it's really relative. I mean, it's really relative. Now, you know, I mean, now I come over here, and instead of staying at, you know, big giant hotels, I stay at hotels like, you know, as long as there's a bed and a sink in the room. I really, really don't. As a matter of fact, some of the big time was a pain in the ass, you know, and you get used to it. You get used to it going wherever it's going to go. You really do. But see, this is another reason when I stopped. Went back to Nashville, Tennessee. It's a nice slow pace of life. It's not New York, where I'm from, and it's not LA, where I don't ever really hope to be. But it just forced me to slow down and figure out who I was on a daily basis. Because, you know, the Dr. Hook thing was, as well as you stay in the nice hotels and you fly the Concorde and you do all that, also your life gets to be when the record falls off the chart, you start saying to yourself, well, is that me? Is my life falling off the chart? You get to be as great as your last success. So the big time, you know, I don't mean to complain here because we're all looking for it, but I mean, it has its downs, especially when you take it serious, and especially when you start at 19 years old like I did and stop when you're 35. I virtually grew up, you know, with a certain mindset, and that mindset was get on the charts, do whatever, you know, do whatever you're going to do.
So what about the memories of Dr. Hook? Because you got up to a few funny things in your time with the band, didn't you? Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, you know, again, when you're together every day like we were, you know, and when you're friends, you think of things to make it interesting for yourself. I mean, as well as the audience, you know. I even think that now. I think my job is kind of like to make it interesting for myself every day, you know. But yeah, we did things like open for ourselves, you know, play our own support act, dress in funny clothes, play each other's instruments, and go out on stage and do bad R&B music until they hopefully yelled for Dr. Hook. You know, I guess the worst thing that could have happened was they liked that band better. But, but we did things like that. We did a couple of things in Scandinavia because we'd always heard Scandinavia was real loose morally, which turned out not to be true at all, just something they tell you in America, so you'll go to Scandinavia, I guess. But we did a couple of encores in the All Together, you know, come out, and which was good for me because I was playing guitar, so it didn't matter, you know, it was okay. But we used to do things not so much to shock people, but because when you did a tour like that, you wanted them to go away from that show knowing that if they came back the next year, they couldn't be sure what they were going to get. And I like that, you know what I mean? I'd like to try to do that now. I'd like people to not be quite sure when Dennis Locorriere comes back exactly what he will be doing. Maybe it'll be me in a guitar, maybe it'll be me in an orchestra, maybe it'll be me doing one of Shell's acting things, you know, one of his plays or something like that. So I'd like to do that. But yeah, it's more keeping it interesting for yourself, because if you do that, then it's usually interesting for the audience. You know?
Well, the million-dollar question, talking about Dr. Hook, will the band ever get back together again, do you think?
I seriously doubt it. I seriously doubt it. Talking to the members that I do talk to, and you know, everybody, you know, I'm going to be 42 years old in a month, and I was the youngest guy in the band. You know what I mean? So everybody is kind of happy having the life they have now. Everybody feels like they gave it a good shot. And you know how that nostalgia stuff goes. I mean, if we all called each other pining and crying, saying, oh, I miss it, I miss it, I miss it, we'd do it 2 weeks later, we'd be going, why the hell did we do this? You know, because we've done everything there is for this bunch of guys to do, I think, you know. And right now, I think the old Polaroids are more fun to look at than to try to go forward and do it, which is why we never recorded again. That's why we never went ahead and got another record deal, because we figured if we went and got another record deal, that's maybe 3 albums worth, and we'd be on the road for another 10 years. So I like calling these guys and talking to them more than I think I'd like being on the road with everybody again.
Dialogue with the audience is a very important part of your act.
Yeah, I mean, I do see a lot of artists come out, and I think it's great when an artist comes out and does more than just sing. You know, because I've seen bands and singers lots of times where, even though the show is real impressive, when they say goodnight and walk off the show, you know, off the stage, I always feel like I'm still going, that was great, but who was that? You know, and I guess people give whatever they can give, but for me, I find it a whole lot more rewarding if I come out and just open up a dialogue with the audience, and then they tell me whatever they want me to know too, because that's what makes the crowd different every night. And you know, if you're going to do it 300 days a year, you better be looking for ways to make it different each night, you know. And little things that happen from the audience, I mean, I remember that. This happened in Oxford, this happened somewhere else, you know. So it's not totally selfless. It's not like I'm coming out here and I think this would be the most entertaining thing for the audience, because it's also the most entertaining thing for me, you know. And again, if I'm going to get back into this, let's make it entertaining for all of us. And the first thing in song interpretation, I mean, this sounds like an obvious statement, but the first thing is to know what the lyrics say. And actually that's the second thing. The first thing is to find a song or write a song that actually says something. That's what I was always so thrilled about with Shel Silverstein, is that he used to write, and I guess he still does, he writes little vignettes, you know, his things like Sylvia's Mother and Carry Me, Carry, they're little stories. So you get to almost put yourself in a character's position. And when I write songs, I like to do the same thing. I like to put myself in a situation. If it's true, if the song happens to be, you know, something that happened from real experience, then that's easy. And if not, you just kind of have to play a character, hoping that people will explain it. But it's a little more like acting than I ever thought it would be, quite honestly. A Little Bit More was a song written by a guy named Bobby Gosh. And Shel Silverstein, who wrote a lot of our early songs, didn't write that one, but he found this on an album in a flea market or something, you know, like a cut-rate album, and he played it for us one day. It was like, I think the song was like side 2, third track or something. And Shel said, you see, when something's good, it doesn't have to be number one. It doesn't have to be anything for it to really be good. Here's a great song. And we thought, yeah, that is a good song. And probably about 6 months later, and this is no lie, somebody at a record company said, you want to hear a great song? And picks up this Bobby Gosh album and plays us a little bit more. And we thought, oh, this is an omen. We better cut this song. And it's another, out of the Dr. Hook material, it's really been one of the most enduring songs because it says a little something to everybody. I guess that's the key. If Not You is a song that I wrote in about 1975, and I wrote it really quickly. It was a personal statement. It was something I was living through at the time, and it was such a personal statement that I couldn't play it for anybody in the band for a long time because I thought, well, sure, I like it because it's about me. I understand it. And when I sang it to the guys in the band, it was interesting how they all thought, well, that applied to them too, and that showed me something about writing songs, that if you can put in just enough of yourself into it and then leave a little space where somebody can fill in their own blanks and relate it to themselves, that for me is a sign of a good song. I know when other songwriters, those are the ones that, you know, I like. You always appreciate a well-crafted song, but if somebody sings something and you go, yeah, me too, you know. When you're writing them, you don't think that. When you're sitting writing a song, you don't think, oh, this will be great, this will affect people all over the world. You really don't do that. You try to come up with a nice melody, you try to rhyme, you try to make the song, you know, a well-written song, but you never know till you walk out on the stage and sing something. I'm finding out that a lot of these songs I've written now in the context of this show are actually saying things about me. But as you write them one at a time, it's like, okay, I've written 10 songs, and then one day you look at them and you think, hell, this is a musical, you know. So it's interesting to look at it in retrospect and to put it onto a stage. It's a whole different perspective.